Well, I don't know.
That wasn't to be even slower there.
Where did you go?
That wasn't for us. That was
East, I mean?
I was in Palm
I mean, it wasn't.
Oh, great. Is that Colorado or is that, California?
California.
Good to you.
Absolutely, it was the warmest.
Ready, Gary? Are you ready?
Seriously?
Honestly, we were 80 degrees the whole time, 80 to 85.
Excuse me.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Hutchinson City Council meeting for Tuesday, December 27th, 2022. We'll call the meeting to order. Approve the council agenda. Any agenda additions or corrections?
Mayor and Council, I have one addition for you for consideration. That'd be Resolution 15548. It'd be a resolution to call a public hearing at our next council meeting. And if you're comfortable, I'd ask that you add that as item number 20.5 at the end of the agenda.
I'll make a motion to approve the council agenda with our additional 15548.
Second.
Motion by Mary, second by Pat to approve the agenda with the addition. Any other discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. We do not have an invocation tonight, so we'll just have a moment of silence, please. Next is Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Recognition of gifts, donations, and community service to the city. Anybody have any? All right, we do have a proclamation under there, the one book, one community. Whereas the city of Hutchinson believes connecting citizens as individuals in a common purpose is a powerful means of building a stronger community. Whereas the city of Hutchinson believes strong communities create a stable and supportive society. Whereas the city of Hutchinson believes citizens of all ages who feel a sense of belonging tend to lead happier and healthier lives. Whereas the city of Hutchinson recognized that one book, one community choice of Diane Wilson's The Seed Keeper expands a sense of community throughout a round-ranging discussion. Therefore, I, Gary Fortier, Mayor of Hutchinson, Minnesota, do proclaim the month of January 2023 as One Book, One Community Month. Mary, you wanted to say a few words. Go ahead. Just introduce yourself, please.
Okay. Hi, I'm Mary Hankey. I am on the One Book, One Community program, and that comes out of the Hutchinson Connects Committee also. Gary, thank you for recognizing our program, and it's now in the 10th year. So with your proclamation, you're getting us off to a good start. It's hard to believe that we've been at this for 10 years. Over the years, friends, family, and coworkers in Hutchinson have read and shared a wide range of books, from stories about an orphan train experience in the late 1800s when kids from the East Coast were shipped out to the Midwest in the hopes that they'd be moving from poverty to a healthy Midwest life. Sometimes that worked out, sometimes it was not a good thing at all. We read about Eric Severide's adventures as he and a friend, when they were graduating from high school, canoed over 2,000 miles from Minneapolis to Hudson Bay in their book, Canoeing with the Cree. Last year we had a completely different kind of book. It's called If You Lived Here, You'd Be Home by Now. And Chris Ingraham was the author of that book, and he was a reporter who made the community of Red Lake County and Red Lake Falls famous by calling them the worst place to live in America, based on a story he had written for the Washington Post. And he ends up moving his family back to Red Lake Falls. And the book told very funny but eye-opening, things that I think we take for granted about what it means to live in a community where you can connect. And so a whole range of things. One thing that all these books have in common is they have a Minnesota connection. And that's two reasons it's important. It makes our programs qualify for a Minnesota Legacy Grant, so we're able to bring in speakers and have rental places and things like that at no cost, to extra cost to our community. And then the other thing is that based on the evaluations that we get after every program, people always mention that one of the things they appreciate is that we are talking about Minnesota topics, Minnesota places, some things they had never heard about before, Minnesota authors. So that keeps us looking for people and subjects that we can do. So the whole goal of this, and the proclamation spelled that out nicely, is that this community book read is a way to build connections among people in the community. And that's what's been happening over these 10 years. They read the book together and discuss the book. And after the holidays, we found we have kind of a sweet spot. January through February, March, there's, you can travel for a couple of weeks, or you might, but if you're in Minnesota and you're not getting outside as much, after the holidays, there's just kind of that dead time, and reading becomes an awful lot more attractive than when you have the time to just enjoy it, just kick back and enjoy it. So we encourage people. Some people have groups of friends. Some people, their families, all get the book and read it together. Melissa, I think your family does that, has a tradition of doing that. And co-workers, the hospital has a group of people out there that get together. Not to worry, if you don't have a group like that, we're going to be having a community book discussion where it's open to everybody. And so we're encouraging people to watch for the date of that. It'll be coming up in February. And so just feel free, you'll have other people that have read the book, and we've had some people say that they've moved to Hutchinson, kind of had a hard time finding their place, but this was one place where they met a lot of people, and it was a good thing, so sometimes it's not real easy to jump in, but if you've got something that's bringing you together, it makes it easier and more comfortable. This year's book is another completely different book. Kind of book. It's called Seed Keeper by Diane Wilson. Diane Wilson is a Native American Minnesotan, and she's a member of a Native American tribe in Minnesota, and she's written a novel kind of based on her growing up experiences, but it's a story about a woman who's was raised as a Dakota Indian, but separated from that when her parents died, and then struggles when her husband dies to find kind of her way of reconnecting back. She's lost, and part of what she's lost is that culture, what she's been brought up with. And so the book talks about a lot of different aspects. It looks at it from different points of view. And it's going to be a real good one to talk about different kinds of issues. Diane's book has been well received, and she's had a number of speaking engagements throughout the nation. And good news, bad news. Good news for Diane. Bad news is that we can't get her because she's traveling, But what we did is we found a substitute, her name is Megan Schnitker, and she lives in Mankato, and she has the same kind of background that Diane had, and Diane talks about in Seed Keeper, where Native Americans had a wonderful appreciation of the land and the way you can forage plants and make remedies and all of that. And this woman, Megan, grew up with that kind of background, and she's turned it into a business. And she has a small business in Mankato called Lakota Made, and that's M-A-D-E. And so she makes products that she's grown up learning about, and she also has nationwide, at Christmas, we had a hard time connecting with her because she was busy selling her products throughout the United States, shipping them out. So she's going to talk about what she's been doing. So I think that's going to be a real interesting program. As I said, we're funded by the Legacy Grant and the Friends of the Hutchinson Public Library and Thrivent. And we also partner with the Public Library, Hutchinson Leader, and the Hutchinson Health. If you want a copy of the book, you can get it at the library, single copies, but what we've done is we also have a book club kit. So if you do have a group that's reading the book, the whole kit, it's in a tote, and you can just check the whole tote out, and you've got 10 copies of the book for your group, so it makes things a lot easier. If you want a copy of your own, there's local places. Center for the Arts has copies of the book they're selling in the Village Shop. And then it's really easy to get it online. I got copies in like a day or two. So unless we're depleting the supply, but I doubt that. So let's see, I'm going to leave a copy at City Center with Melissa, and she can share it with the staff, City Council, anybody that's interested. There's a poster about it, and we'll have more information coming out. If you have questions, I'd be happy to answer them. Otherwise, I'd just like to say thank you again. You're getting us off to a good start, and I really, who knows how long this will go, so thank you.
Thanks, Mary.
Thank you.
Okay, we do have a couple of resolutions. We have resolution number 15540, resolution accepting a $100 donation from Keith and Linda and Lisa Camrath for upcoming Shady Ridge Playground improvements. And resolution number 15546, resolution accepting $2,000 donation from the Village Ranch to Hutchinson Police Department towards future equipment purchases.
I'll make a motion to approve those resolutions.
Okay.
Motion by Chad, second by Dave to approve both resolutions. Any other discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Citizens addressing the council, just please come forward and state your name and address. All right, approval of minutes. We have regular meeting minutes of December 13th, 2022.
I'll make a motion to approve those minutes.
Second.
Motion by Mary, second by Pat to approve the minutes. Any other discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Consent agenda will be done by one motion unless somebody pulls something off for discussion. A, we have appointment of Wanda Lambert to the Public Arts Commission to August of 2025. B is approval of resolution number 15541, resolution establishing polling locations for 2023. C is approval of resolution number 15542, MnDOT agency agreement. D is approval of resolution number 15543, resolution adopting finding of facts and reason for approval and conditional use permit for the apartment project in a R4 zoning district located at Michael Court Southwest with favorable Planning Commission recommendation. E is approval of resolution number 15547, resolution authorizing a interfund loan for advance of certain costs of connection with tax increment financing districts 4-5 and 4-16. F is approval of purchase of a brush chipper. G is approval of purchase of biosolid spreader. H is approval of issuing short-term gambling license to the McLeod County Pheasants Forever on March 11, 2023 at the McLeod County Fairgrounds. I is approval of the 2023 license renewals, massage license to Santee Hall and taxi service license to Quality Transportation. J is approval of lease agreement with Rodney and Leanne Olson. K is approval of interconnection credit agreement with Fire Lake Manufacturing LLC. And L is claims appropriations and contract payments. Is there anything anybody wants pulled off?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion by Pat, second by Chad to approve the consent agenda. Any other discussion? All in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Carried. All right, we do not have a public hearing. Communications, requests, and petitions. Review of council members' appointments to the city boards and commissions.
Mayor and council, I think every other year, so every year that we have an election, we kind of had a discussion just before we enter into our organizational meeting, the first in January, just to kind of take a review at the standing and temporary boards, commissions, and committees, just to see, at least to give the mayor some feedback on those appointments. Obviously, with Mary leaving and Tim coming on, we'll have a need for some new assignments, some potential reappointments, and just want to at least provide an opportunity for the council to have any discussions as we move into our organizational meeting next week when it comes to these appointments, if there's any specific comments, questions, thoughts. If somebody would like to get off of a certain committee, commission, or board, I guess now would be the time to have that conversation. And then just to be discussing some filling of the vacancy, obviously left with Mary. Historically, we've just appointed the person that's coming on to fill the person that's leaving, but there is no requirement for the council to do that. This is really our organizational time that we're looking at. So if there's a desire to mix things up, it'd be good to have that conversation now, I guess. So hand it over to you guys if there's.
Well, I did one movement. Mary Christensen was on the Hutchinson Economic Development Authority, and I'm going to assign that to Pat, put him on that board. And the rest, I think you were on the Arts Commission, so Tim will fill that vacancy. The rest, I think I'll just leave them alone unless you guys have a desire to move. Because right now, I think, Matt, could you just read them off?
Sure. The one that Mary's on?
Or no, all of them.
Sure. Right now, Gary's on the Airport Commission. Chad and Mary are on the EDA. Gary is the council rep for the HRA. Dave is the Joint Planning Board rep. Mary is the Library Board rep. Dave is the Mid-Minnesota Development Commission rep. Chad is the Park Rec Community Education rep. Dave is the Planning Commission rep. Pat is the Public Arts Commission rep. Pat's also the Bike Pedestrian Advisory Committee rep. Gary is the Downtown Association rep. Myself, Chief Schuman, and Gary are the Fire Relief Association, and that's actually I think that's a state statute for appointments. Resource Allocation is Gary and Chad. The Wage Committee is Pat and Dave. Regional Radio Board is Dave. Labor Union Negotiation Committee is Gary and Mary. Sustainability Board is Pat. Marketing and Branding Committee is Pat and Mary. Then we've got two temporary, the new police facility, which will probably, I don't know if they'll meet again, but would probably wrap up at the end of this year. That's Gary and Mary. And then our other temporary is Lakes River Basin Technical Advisory Panel, and that's Gary and Chad. So those are our current committee, commission appointments.
One question I had, does anybody know if the Downtown Association is active?
They're not.
They're not active. I don't think they've technically been disbanded, but I know they're not active. So.
No.
And I mean, it doesn't hurt to appoint somebody to it, but if it's not active, do we take it off the list?
Well, if they do become active, at least we have somebody there already,
Sure.
So, I mean, I don't think it hurts just to leave it there, but otherwise.
And I think that's a conversation I'm going to have, because I want to say the last time there was a conversation, I know they were taking a break, and I'm not sure if they were going to kind of reevaluate But I know there is a desire to look at doing another downtown master plan, or look at least revising that or updating that, and so there could be some use out of that committee, but if you want to appoint it for another year, I think it's a conversation we can have at least for.
Yeah, have you had any communication with those guys at all?
Miles and Maddie worked with them, and for some reason, I think they were thinking about potentially disbanding, but I don't want to say that for sure. If it actually happened.
Like you haven't met in a long
Yeah, we haven't met in a long time.
years.
I believe that's the case.
A couple of years, so. But I could look into it, as Mike Cannon's on it, and Dave Mahoney, so.
I got a couple days before organizational meeting on Tuesday, so I can reach out to them and see if there's still some plans for that.
Yeah, I think probably worthwhile, just tackle it.
So Dave, you're just still on the regional radio board?
Well, he had my name on there, but I don't, since we sold or went to,
That shouldn't be there.
Glencoe, I don't think we've had.
No, I
I don't
went
know if
to,
Chief Gibbons goes to any meetings in Mankato or not, so.
if someone goes to Mankato. When I was on the regional board, I went one time there. And then I would reach out to the PD department and they would say, well, you don't have to go, we can go. So they always send a rep. So really, no one from the council should be on that board.
Yeah, I can follow up with both of those, just to get some clarification. Maybe we don't need them for organizational meeting, so.
You know, they can report to us or forward what their meeting is
Yeah.
about.
Especially when now they're just.
Yeah, now that we don't have a dispatch center, there might be a need for us.
Right.
I'll follow up with them, so.
Otherwise, everybody else is comfortable. All right. Got what you need, man?
Yep, that,
Okay.
just want to make sure as we get ready to put that information together for next Tuesday, that way.
All right.
So I guess point of clarification, Pat's going to step off of the Public Arts Commission, and
Then put him
Tim,
on.
and he's going to the
Tim
EDA?
will go,
Okay.
yeah, yeah.
Sounds good.
And I think I did talk to Melissa.
Okay,
So.
okay. Sounds good. Thank you.
All right, moving on, unfinished business, resolution number 15519, adopting the 2023 City of Hutchinson fee schedule.
Mayor and council, we had discussion on this at our last council meeting, and there was an agreement to table it. I know there was a question on the depot and the fee that was assigned to that, and I've got Lynn here tonight to answer any questions regarding that. I hadn't received any additional questions on the fee schedule. I think some of the more important things to know for changes is the update of our assessment rates, the changing of our utility rates, and then the other changes that have been noted, obviously, within the fee schedule. So with that, I'll hand it over to Lynn if you want to maybe explain the charging of the depot, the pavilion, and the rental space there.
Good evening, Mayor and Council members. Just for some clarification on the Depot Marketplace rental, the new rental rate that was made a little bit of a change for this year was the addition of the $50 per rental for the outside exterior pavilion. Previously, we had a rental rate of $75 for a 4-hour rental for the interior building, which included the bathrooms inside, tables and chairs, and accessibility inside the building. And then if you wanted to rent additional, you could add additional hours on top of that 4-hour rental. New for this year, we added some new lighting to the exterior pavilion and then access to the restrooms, which had not been there before. And so we added an additional rate of $50 per rental, and you have to rent the interior building to get access to the exterior pavilion as well. Couple of reasonings behind that. The Depot Marketplace is available to rent all year round, and our thought process behind that was the interior building would be available in the winter, and probably the exterior part would not want to be used as much during the winter months when it's chilly, to keep it a little bit more affordable to have those two different rates so that you could rent just the interior portion of the building because it is heated and accessible all year round. giving people an option there. And then also, we do have some users that don't want to use the exterior portion of the facility. So it gives them an option even in the summer months. If they would want to rent the interior but not the exterior, they could rent just that portion of the building. And then the reasoning behind that, we require the renters to rent the interior with the exterior is we wouldn't want to have two different rentals going on at the same time. And most people rent the area, the Depot Marketplace, for the interior portion as well. So we wanted to give the community members and the renters the option to have accessibility to both without having them maybe have a large charge just to use the interior if they're not going to use the exterior. Just like all of our other shelters, obviously our park goers, they can use any of our parks at any time without reserving. The reservation of the exterior portion just makes sure that you are the sole user of that space. We don't, we can't stop people from using the outdoor pavilion if they didn't rent it, if they just rented the interior, but you don't get access to the bathrooms and then the lights of the pavilion at that time if you didn't rent it. I don't know if there's any other questions behind kind of our reasoning for that. We tried to keep it consistent throughout our fee schedule. We have a very similar schedule structure. If you look at Masonic West River, the shelter and the stage, the same structures there. You have to, if you want to rent the stage, you have to rent the shelter at the same time. Two different rates because some people like to use just the shelter and not the stage. But that stage, if you want the stage, you have to rent the shelter to get access to the shelter and the bathrooms as well too. So just trying to keep it similar in nature for all of our users and consistency throughout our fee structure for parks.
I understand that. I just know that if I'm renting that building, if I'm renting the depot, you will probably have people outside setting their chairs up outside on that where the pavilion is.
Yep.
And they're not using the lights or anything. Usually most people are renting the pavilion during the day. They're not renting it in the evening that much.
And I think the addition of the lights was to give people another option, maybe to rent a little longer, and it's got a really nice ambiance in that area with the lights. But like I said, we can't stop people from using it, but we wanted to give people some options, renting both.
I mean, I understand the policy. It's just that I'm saying, don't be surprised when you rent the depot, because you have access to a bathroom in that depot.
You do.
You don't need the bathrooms outside unlocked. They can be locked. So if people want to be outside and sit out there, they will. I mean, you'll drive by and see it, I'm sure.
And there are picnic tables under there already for users, and anyone, any park goer can go and use
It's
it
a
without
park.
renting
You
it.
can go
Yep.
sit there.
Absolutely. Yep, renting it just ensures that you are the sole renter of that area, and we encourage people to use it if they want to go have lunch over there or anything like that.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
It's
just like
a
any
nice
other
place to go
parks.
and sit.
Yes.
Okay, well, thank you for explaining that.
Does anyone else have any questions? Okay, thank you.
Yep.
I'll make a motion to approve the fee schedule.
I'll second.
Motion by Chad, second by Mary to approve resolution number 15519. Any other discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. New business, utility service repair policy. Mr. Olson.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. At our last meeting, we provided information regarding a proposed policy related to repairing water and sewer wastewater services from the main up to the building being served. And the Public Works staff recommended expanding the current policy to include repair replacement of water and wastewater services from the main to approximately 4 feet from the building, provided we did any work on private property under contract or written agreement with the property owner. So our recommendation is to adopt the policy that we talked about last time, including the $2 per month charge, $1 for water, $1 for wastewater. That's in the city's fee schedule that was just adopted, and the amount would provide maximum coverage of $8,500 per incident. And we anticipate roughly 14 incidents per year. So I'd be happy to answer any questions about the policy itself that anyone would have.
And John, correct, we're now adding sewer, which was that previously not included?
That's correct.
It was just water, so now we're adding sewer.
Correct.
And just for the council and general public's knowledge, this was, and we've had some comments over the past couple of years with the increase of costs about our current policy not meeting the cost of the replacement. And so that's the goal here is to meet those costs, to add the addition of the sewer line replacements, just noting that there is an additional fee that will be tacked on to the utility bill as well.
It's really a no-brainer. I mean, it really is.
Yes.
It's a very good
I
policy.
wish we had that for that big main break we had on Highway 15. So, but we don't, so.
Well, if there's no discussion, I will certainly make a motion to approve that.
Second.
Motion by Mary, second by Pat to approve utility service repair policy. Any other discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
So John, is that what they were doing in front of like Novation and that?
Yes, that was a water main break. Yeah.
Looked like a mess.
It got to be a real mess by the afternoon.
Well,
It didn't look like one, it is one.
No, it just plain is, yeah. And it'll be a worse mess tomorrow, so.
I don't know anything about utilities, but it went sideways, it looked like.
Yes, yeah, we put one repair clamp on, broke in another spot, did that 3 times, finally said, halt, we're gonna put new pipe in.
so that's why Caribou was closed down
Yes, sir.
because they had no water. So
Yes, sir.
they are still going to be in business. So
Oh, yes. We're hoping by tomorrow noon, so.
all right, thanks, John.
Yeah.
First reading of ordinance number 22-836, ordinance amending chapter 53 of the Hutchinson City Code.
Yeah, and this relates to the new water and wastewater rates and connecting those rates up to the existing language in the city code. We recommend that these changes be made to make that language in the city code compatible with what we're proposing for the utility rates. And so I did include a copy of the green line and red line, and a clean copy of that was also included on top there. This would be a first reading, and the second reading and adoption scheduled for the 10th of January. Basically, what we're addressing is customers may request to have a deduct meter installed as necessary to calculate volumes of water that are not discharged into the sanitary sewer. So obviously this could include both residential customers for irrigation, but it could also include commercial, industrial, or institutional customers that either use irrigation or some other use of their water where it does not get discharged into the sanitary sewer. So we just ask that the deduct meter be put in, and that we can read that, and then the stipulations that are included in the fee schedule. So.
Motion approved, first reading.
Second.
Motion by Pat, second by Dave to approve. Any other discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Jefferson Street Southeast Turnback Agreement.
Mayor and Council, this is part of the proposed improvements on Jefferson Street Southeast from Airport Road up to Edmonton Avenue Southeast. County will be constructing a roundabout intersection at Airport Road and Jefferson Street. The county will also be conducting a construction project to the north. For this section of Jefferson Street that lies north of the roundabout. Once the construction is completed, it would be turned back to the city as city street. Per the agreement, the city will be participating in construction costs and will perform the inspection for those parts of the project that are solely the city's, primarily the trail. And then the attached agreement was reviewed by the city and county attorneys, and also the McLeod County Board approved the agreement at their meeting last week. So our recommendation is to enter into the agreement with McLeod County.
Motion to approve the Jefferson Street Southeast Turnback Agreement.
I'll second.
Motion by Pat, second by Mary to approve. Any other discussion?
John, I do have just one question. How many feet of curb and gutter were gonna go along, Jefferson Street? Was that about 900 feet? Or is that going all the way down to Edmonton?
It will go the whole way. If you recall, on the east side right now, there isn't curb for a majority of that segment. So that's where the majority of that curb would be, is on the east side, south of the existing curb.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, for the existing curb, there are small areas that will have to get removed and replaced to, account for pedestrian ramps and things like that, and perhaps some patching, but most of it's on the east. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yep.
There's a motion.
Any other discussion? Call a motion?
I second.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Thank you. All right, resolution number 15544, resolution adopting 2023 compensation plan, position classification table, and pay grid effective.
Effective 1/1/23, so.
Okay, I was like, is that it? Okay, 1/1/23.
Yeah. Mayor and Council, this is our annual resolution in front of you tonight for the compensation plan for all of our non-union employees within the city for 2023. The plan includes a 4% market adjustment to the grid, and just to once again acknowledge that doesn't mean that every employee gets a 4% performance increase. It still comes down to what their performance is. It just means that the earning potential essentially will be shifting or increasing by 4%. 4% is what's been recommended by the wage committee based off of public sector market data that we've received and looked at. Also within the plan, we've noted some of the changes with some of the positions, whether it's title changes or reclassifications, those have been notified within the plan. And then I guess the last thing to acknowledge is that we will be eliminating or getting rid of our apprenticeship program. We're at a point where we don't feel like it's needed anymore, and so we'll be looking to transition out of that as well. Myself or Kelly's here to answer any questions you may have on the proposed plan for 2023.
Make a motion to approve it.
Second.
Motion by Chad, second by Pat to approve. Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Carried. Resolution number 15545, resolution adopting paid on-call firefighter compensation plan effective 1/1/2023.
Mayor and Council, as we kind of noted in the board action form, we really don't have a formal policy in place for how we pay our on-call firefighters, and so this is really trying to put to paper what our practice has been, and so that we have a formal record of it. All of our other pay plans, whether it's the seasonal temporary or our compensation plan that we just approved, have been approved by the council in a formal manner, so we wanted to make this formal, in regards to the fire department. So it's been reviewed by myself, Kelly, and Mike, and we're recommending council approve the compensation plan.
Motion to approve resolution 15545, adopting paid on-call firefighter compensation plan effective 1/1/2023.
Second.
Motion by Pat, second by Dave to approve. Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, carried. Resolution number 15534, resolution adopting 2023 general fund budget.
Good evening, Mayor, council members. So we're going to go through several budgets here in tax levies. I'll keep it brief just because we've gone through these budgets in detail before. And Matt recently went through them 3 weeks ago for the Truth and Taxation meeting. So we'll start with the general fund budget. In the packet, there's 2 scenarios for you to consider tonight. The first scenario is what was presented at the Truth and Taxation meeting. Nothing's been changed. We have a 3.6% tax levy increase to support the expenditures that increased 2.6% over the prior year's budget. And the biggest driver, as Matt's pointed out in previous budget meetings, is our wages and benefits. For 2023, the wages and benefit category went up 2.4% and just under $229,000. The second scenario we have for you to consider includes an additional $25,000 of funding for our fleet. You know, we've talked about our fleet funding quite a bit in the past, how what we're currently funding isn't sufficient for the replacements that we currently have. And on top of that, through the pandemic, we saw cost increases, availability issues. So we were planning on raising this funding incrementally each year, and we had for the last 2 years. But as we came to you with the preliminary levy of 7.3%, I believe, it didn't seem feasible to have that funding increased at that time. Then unfortunately, it got missed at the Truth and Taxation meeting. So I wanted to bring this back just to see if there was any appetite to increase our funding, knowing that all the costs of our vehicles are going up significantly here. So what this would do, if you went with this option, it would increase the tax levy 4.1%. So it would go up about 0.5% above what we saw at the Truth and Taxation meeting. So another 0.5%. The overall, here I can switch to the next page. You might be able to see it better at the bottom. I have the 2 options at the very bottom. 2A is what was presented at the Truth and Taxation meeting. 2B is including the additional funding. So about a 0.5% increase in our general fund tax levy. And then including the debt levy in that, our overall city tax levy would go up about 0.4% to a total of 3.7. Then you can see what the result of the total tax impact is at the bottom, going up about 0.3%. So that would be the impact on the tax levy side. And then on our preliminary tax impact that we like to look at, the 2 options are shaded blue and green. Going with the additional $25,000 for the vehicle funding results in another $3 in city taxes paid by the median home value for 2023. So somewhat minor impact, but just wanted to make sure we had this in front of you just in case you wanted to consider increasing the funding for our fleet. So with that said, I'll open it up to any questions you may have and ask that you approve one of the 2 options, or if you have other proposals you want to make for our budget tonight, we can discuss that as well. Let me get back to that page.
So if nobody has any questions, I'll make a motion to approve it with option 2B.
Second.
All right, we have a motion by Chad, and second by Pat for option 2B. That would be a 3.4, Andy, right?
It would be a 4.1 general fund, 3.7% city tax levy.
All right, any other discussion?
I think it just noted that, like Andy said, that it's just the cost since COVID we're behind on the fleet already.
Right.
And if we don't do something, it's gonna come back and bite us to where we have to cut major purchases we need for each department, just so that the public's clear that we're not just willy-nilly spending an extra $25,000. It's not that we don't think about it, but it's just,
It's
it
necessary.
needs to be done.
Right. This is evidenced by some recent pickup trucks. I think our facility manager, we had a purchase order recently, $39,000 for a truck that 2 years ago would have been maybe $28,000. So it's just crazy what's going on.
That is a good thing. Just wanted that notice so that people.
Well, you're right, Pat. If we don't, I'd rather go by little steps instead of taking the big leap when we're behind the eight ball. So any other discussion? Call the motion, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. All right, we have resolution number 15535, resolution adopting the 2023 general fund and debit service final tax levies.
All right, since you just approved that option 2B, we would be looking at that resolution as well for the tax levy. So what's in front of you right now on the screen is that same option, where we would have a total final tax levy, including general fund and our debt service levy, totaling $8,244,328. And we talked about the general fund going up to 4.1%. But the debt, I just want to touch on that, the debt is going up 2.6%, and we saw a pretty good increase in our debt levy for 2022 as a result of the police facility. This would be another step up related to the police facility. And we'll be seeing increases as this projected debt levy. These are estimates based on our debt today and expected debt over the future. But you can see we're going to have a slow increase in our debt until it stabilizes in the year 2032, just above that $3 million range. So we're going to be seeing increases in our debt levy over the next 9 years, simply because of not only the police debt, but because we've also increased our debt limit for our roadway projects a few years back too. So we were already going to be seeing some increases because of the roadway projects, but it's just escalated a little more with the police facility. So with that said, I guess I'll open it up to any questions you may have regarding the final tax levy.
I'll make a motion to approve that resolution 15535 on the final tax levy.
Second.
Motion by Mary, second by Pat, to approve.
I think it's just knowing the 2B, just so we have that.
2B, correct.
Yeah.
Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Carried. Are we gonna do these all at once, or do we gotta do it separately?
No, I think Andy's plan is to go through all those different enterprise funds, and if the council would like, you can do that all with one motion.
Is that fine with everybody? All right, we have the 2023 enterprise fund budgets. So we have resolution number 15528, resolution approving the 2023 liquor fund budget. And resolution number 15529, resolution approving the 2023 water fund budget. We have resolution number 15530, resolution approving the 2023 wastewater fund budget. Resolution number 15531, resolution approving the 2023 stormwater fund budget. And resolution number 15532, resolution approving the 2023 refuge fund budget. And Resolution number 15533, resolution approving the 2023 compost fund budget.
All right, thank you again, Mayor. Yeah, most of these budgets, with the exception of compost, refuse, and wastewater, the rest of them are all the same that Matt presented at the Truth and Taxation meeting. The three that I mentioned have just very small minor changes, so you probably won't even notice. But I'll go through these briefly, starting with the liquor fund. We have a slight decrease in our budgeted revenue, just under 2% decrease, while our expenditures went down about 0.8%. So we're expecting a normal post-pandemic year. We've seen some kind of interesting years through the pandemic, and even 2022 was not quite what we consider normal, but we're budgeting for a normal year, which is reflecting a slight decrease from a 22 budget that was maybe a little inflated due to the pandemic. We're budgeting for a net loss of $74,314, and that is after budgeting for depreciation and our capital outlays. And we're expecting a negative cash flow for the year of about $13,000. And we've had positive cash flow actually in most years, but what's happening now, you can see it in the wages and benefit category. That went up about 11.5% this year for 2023, and that's kind of driving our margins down a bit. Our gross margins are increasing, but our overall net margin is decreasing. So that's really the driver behind the net loss. But in reality, I think Candace will do a good job managing your budget, and I fully expect we'll come in better than what the budget shows. The water fund, our revenues are up 12.3%, while our expenditures are down 3.2%. With our local sales tax, historically we've shared that revenue 50-50 between the water and wastewater funds. And that was basically because of our debt levels being about equal between the two funds. Starting with 2023, we're seeing the debt level a little more in the water fund. So the percentages, to stay consistent with our debt load, has shifted a little more to the water fund. About 55.5% of the sales tax revenue will now get recorded in the water fund, and 44.5% over in the sewer fund or wastewater fund. So that's why you see a fairly large increase here in the local sales tax numbers. We're budgeting for a net loss of a little under 1.2 million, and that's mainly because of some fairly significant capital outlay. We expect a negative cash flow of approximately $103,000, but yet we expect to end the year with a fairly healthy cash balance of about $3.8 million. And then I know at a recent meeting there was a question how much sales tax we've collected. I think it was you, Dave. This table shows how much I expect to collect over the years through 2022 here. I have an estimate in there with only 1 month left to go. So we're just under 16 million with our local sales tax collected through the state, and then we have another 300,000 roughly of vehicle excise tax that we collect locally here. The city manages that or administers that portion. So instead of the sales tax on a vehicle, we collect $20 per vehicle. It's kind of the trade-off there. So a little over 16.1 million in total revenues received through 2022 for our local sales tax. And our budget sitting at about 1.8 million for the sales tax and 22,000 for the excise tax. That's what's been factored into the budgets you're looking at tonight.
See, Andy, a question's been raised of, how much of that sales tax is paid by local Hutchinson residents versus non-residents?
Yeah, and that's tough. I actually just sat through a presentation for the state, basically certifying that I won't share private data with anybody, but then I will have access to the data and will be able to share public data, not private, but hopefully there's some data in there that shows the breakdown of non-residents versus residents.
I sat in that same meeting.
Oh, did you?
Yeah,
Yes,
so,
it was interesting.
So just for the council's knowledge, I don't know if we can even share that if we do know it.
Right.
Just for your knowledge. So, because a lot of that is considered private data. So.
Yeah, if the information we share gives you the likelihood that you can guess who paid it, then we can't share it.
Yeah. So it just depends on how that gets reported to us from the state. So we don't have a great answer on whether or not we can get that information to you or not.
Super duper triple clearance.
How would they find that information out? Like,
I think it'll-
averages or?
I think it'll be in a big Excel spreadsheet. I haven't
Right,
had
but how do they
access
know,
to
like-
it.
But I could see if they would track credit card purchases, because then we would have, you know,
Zip code time to it.
right.
But that's, and see, but the problem is, there's a lot of 55350 that aren't city limits
Right.
as well.
Yeah. And in the past, I've seen some very summarized data. That's by the industry code, was it the NIAC code? That was about it. It was very summarized.
It's something that we'll look into. I'm just not sure we're able to pull it up, so.
Yeah.
I don't know how you would track that. That'd be so hard. I would.
Well, and the thing is, to keep in mind too, that the state is the one that does that. It's not the city.
The state does. One thing I forgot to point out that's kind of interesting, back in October of 2018 was when we first started collecting more online sales tax. I think we collected some, but it was, I think the Supreme Court ruled that companies that were so large selling on the internet had to collect sales tax and remit it to us or to the state. So you can see that's what we had a big jump in our local sales tax in 2018 because of that. And we've seen a few big jumps through the pandemic as well. But I think a lot of those increases are coming from online purchasing, which thankfully we're seeing revenues for. So wastewater fund revenues are down 0.3% while the expenditures are up 14.1%. A lot of that increase on the expenditure side is capital related. And again, as I spoke on this local sales tax, we're seeing a slight decrease over here on the wastewater fund just because their percentages went down from 50% to 44.5%. So we're budgeting for a net loss of about $2.18 million, and a lot of that again is related to the heavy capital expenditure projects. Expecting a negative cash flow at the end of the year of just over $1 million. But you can see we expect to have a healthy cash balance yet at just above $6.8 million by the end of the year. So still very healthy cash balances despite some heavy capital spending here. Stormwater fund revenues are up 3.2% overall, and that's due to a 3% rate increase for our stormwater users. Expenditures are down 26.1%, and a lot of that is just simply due to some heavy expenditures, capital expenditures in last year's budget when we finished the Linden Park Pond project there. So we're budgeting for a net loss of $235,000 roughly, but expect to have a positive cash flow of just under $40,000 for the year, and then end the year with a somewhat healthy cash balance as well. In the refuse fund, our revenues are up 1.4%, expenditures down 1.9%. Our capital outlay, once again, is higher than usual as we continue to budget for that source separated improvement project. We originally budgeted for it in 2021, but with delays in our MPCA permitting process, it's been delayed a couple of years now. So we're budgeting again for 2023. And our budget comes down to a net loss of just under $1.2 million, with a negative cash flow expected at about $1,020,000. And then we'd still end the year with about $835,000 in cash flow, cash balance. One item to note, we're seeing some substantial increases in our refuse collection costs and disposal costs. I know Matt's kind of touched on this too. This would be one fund that we'd look at in 2024 for possible rate increases. I think we'd have to do some analysis yet, but I'm thinking it's very likely we would have to increase rates next year in 2024, which would be the first increase since 2008. So 16 years of no increases is a pretty good run. Then finally, the compost fund, our revenues are up 8.6%, while our expenditures are up 18.9%. We're budgeting for a net loss of just under $582,000, We expect to have a negative cash flow for the year of about $226,000, but still ending the year with a healthy cash balance of about $2.4, $2.5 million. So overall, our enterprise funds are performing well. We have healthy cash balances. User rates have been held flat somewhat, other than the stormwater fund. We've been seeing annual rate increases in the stormwater fund. Our 23 budget has the new rate structure for the water and sewer funds. So we'll see how those play out during the year. And then likely, or possibly, a refuse rate increase for 2024. So pretty good on the rate side for all these enterprise funds, healthy cash balances as mentioned. So I guess at this point, I'll open it up to any questions you might have or discussion.
I do want to point out, I think it's important for both the council and the public to realize is that a lot of times you might see the statement be, well, you're losing money. Well, most of that, we're losing money on purpose because we're using cash to pay for improvements to our facilities. So we've made enough money over the years to where we can expense some of that cash down to make some of these improvements. And I think it's just important to keep that in mind, is that those rates have been supported enough to build a fund balance, so we're not having to borrow to do improvements, that we can use cash, and that's what we're doing with a lot of these capital improvements and the various different enterprise funds.
Right, and depreciation comes into play on the net loss as well.
Yeah.
Ideally, it would be great if we could cover our depreciation each year with our operations, but with some of our large facilities, wastewater, water, it's just not feasible to cover our depreciation. And that's essentially meaning you're putting enough money away to make those capital improvements to replace all those assets at the end of the day.
Entertain a motion to approve.
I'll make a motion to approve all of them.
Yep. Motion by Chad, second by Dave, to approve all the enterprise fund balance budgets. Any other discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Resolution number 15536, resolution adopting the 2023 HRA final tax levy.
All right, thank you again, Mayor. Yeah, the HRA operations, similar to the EDA, which we'll talk about next, they're both considered special taxing districts supported by a tax levy. And these special taxing districts are limited per state statute. They have, I guess I should say, a levy limit per state statute that is based on a percentage of the city's total estimated market value. So for 2023, the limitation for the HRA's levy comes out to be about $263,437. However, the EDA board is requesting a lower levy of only $160,000. And that levy would amount to about a 23% decrease from the 22 levy, and that decrease is due to some staffing changes that resulted from the retirement of the prior HRA director. So it was an opportunity for them to reduce their budget. So with that said, if there's no questions, I ask that you approve the HRA's 2023 tax levy as presented at $160,000.
So moved. Motion by Dave, second by Chad to approve. Any other discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Resolution number 15537, resolution adopting the 2023 EDA final tax levy.
All right, thank you again. Yes, the levy restriction, similar to the HRA, the EDA's levy limit based on the market value of the city is $258,169, and that is the amount that the EDA board is recommending for their levy for 2023. That would represent about an 18.2% increase over their 2022 levy amount. So with that said, I'll open it up to any questions or comments. And if none, I ask that you approve the levy for the EDA at $258,169.
I'll make a motion to approve the resolution 15537, EDA final tax levy.
Second.
Motion by Mary, second by Pat to approve. Any other discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. 5-year capital improvement plan.
All right, I wasn't planning on going through this in too much detail, but I just wanted to point out a few notes that I point out each year. That this 5-year capital plan serves as a guide. I know Matt talks about this a lot as well. And it shows our forecasted capital expenditures basically over the 5-year plan. It's a very fluid document. It's updated annually based on recommendations from city departments, our facility and fleet committees, and then also our resource allocation committee. It's important to mention too that just by simply being on the plan doesn't give approval for projects. It still has to go through the city's approval process, which ultimately many of them have to come to council for approval. And just as a note for 2023, I think Matt mentioned it in the Truth and Taxation meeting as well. We're back down to somewhat more of a normal year at 9.6. It might be hard to see, but 9.6 million in projects that we're looking at for 2023. Back to a more normal level after 2 years of higher levels due to a couple big projects, including the police facility. So with that said, I guess I'll open it up to any questions or comments regarding the 5-year plan.
Make a motion to approve. Second.
Motion by Pat, second by Pat to approve the 5-year capital improvement plan. Any other discussion?
You know, I just want to add at this point that, what is it, Matt, 5 times we've had options for people to come and look at this, and I hope they just, if they're listening, which I know some do, we all go through this. We're not, I feel almost guilty, like, approved, and everybody thinks we're just giving it a rubber stamp, but we all look at this numerous times. There's numerous times for the people to come forward. It's not something that we just come in December 28th, 27th, or 30th and go, that's what you're doing. You know, it's kind of, a lot goes into it.
Like we noted that, this process really started in May for the council. So you're entering month 8 of looking at this information.
And we haven't had that. Yeah, and not that many people come.
No.
I mean, really. So,
Many workshops.
Yeah.
many workshops.
Yeah.
Yeah, and a lot of detail is actually presented to you outside of these meetings, and that detail can be available to anyone in the public if they want to see it. And the budget book that I'll be finalizing here in the next couple of weeks, that'll be online so people can see that, and that includes a lot of what we've discussed over the summer, fall, winter here.
Any other discussion? All right, motion, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. All right, we have resolution number 15548. This is a resolution calling for a public hearing.
Yes, Mayor and Council, there was a request for a TIF district to assist with a local manufacturer. Part of that is a public hearing requirement. Miles forgot to get this in the packet, so that's why it's being added tonight. But this is just a resolution to actually call that public hearing, which is scheduled for your next city council meeting on January 10th.
Motion to approve. Second. 15548.
Okay. Motion by Pat, second by Dave to approve the resolution. Any other discussion? Sorry. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Governance, we have the library board minutes from October 20th, 2022. Public Arts Commission minutes from November 9th, 2022. We have the Hutchinson Housing Redevelopment Authority board minutes from November 15th, 2022. Planning Commission minutes from November 15th, 2022. The City of Hutchinson financial report and investment reports for November of 2022. And the 2022 annual residential leaf vacuum service report. All right, Chief Gifferson, do you have anything for us tonight?
I don't, unless you have any questions of me.
Can you touch on Snowbird deal for towing, if you could do that?
Mayor and Council. So far, it's been a somewhat unusual winter in the fact that we've had 2 snow emergencies in the month of December. It seems in recent past anyway, it's been late January, early February before we have our first one. So it's generally our practice, historically it's been our practice, that our first snow emergency, the police department only issues citations and we don't tow any vehicles. And I guess the rationale behind that is give everybody fair warning that it's coming. So a couple weeks ago we had our first one. I think there were 70 citations issued during that snow emergency, which I was actually pretty happy about because normally we're well over 100 for the first one.
The last couple of years have been around 120.
Yeah.
For that first snowfall.
And then most recently, last week, we had another snow emergency, and my mind is going to cooperate with me here. I think we had 27 tows and citations. Well, actually, 27 tows, and I think there might have been 34 citations. A couple were able to see that they were getting a citation or saw that their neighbor was being towed and were able to move their vehicle before the tow truck got there. Again, which was significantly less than it has been historically. So either people are getting the word out. It probably helped that there was 2 fairly close together, so it was fresh in everybody's mind. And I think John can speak to this, but I think it makes for a much more efficient snow removal to have those vehicles out of the way. And just a reminder for the public, just because your snow or just because your street is plowed does not mean you can go back and park on there. When we issue a snow emergency, it's between midnight and 7 a.m., no matter what.
I think the important thing to note too, it's really for the overall safety of the public is why we're issuing that. So we can get those roads cleared, so your emergency vehicles, you need to work and whatnot, that's really the purpose behind that. It's not to try to penalize anybody, but it's really a safety measure on behalf of the city.
So I've had some people say, okay, my car got towed, where did it get towed to and how do I get it?
Sure. Well, currently we use Cars on Patrol. Their shop is located at Highway 7 East, just down the road from Casey's, I guess is probably the easiest way to explain it. And they could almost immediately retrieve their vehicle if they wish to do that. In the most recent snow emergency, I think they towed till 4 o'clock in the morning, and by 4:30 they were releasing cars. So for them, they're there all night long as well.
Okay.
And then
Right at their facility, they tow them right to their.
they have an off-site impound, but in order to get your vehicle back, you have to go to their main office generally.
And what's the cost for them to get there, or don't you know?
That's a great question. I don't know right off the top of my head. I would guess, but then someone would say, that so I've learned not to do that.
Well, you can say $1 million, then you'll be safe.
Yeah.
Safer than moving a car.
Yeah.
Yeah. Any other questions since I'm standing here?
All right, thanks. Thank you. Yeah. Andy, you got anything else for us tonight?
Nope, nothing else.
John?
Yeah, I too wanted to talk about a little bit about the people that we saw very good compliance with the snow emergencies as the operators were out doing their thing. So thank you to everybody who was paying attention and took care of their cars. And I know as we get close to the Christmas holiday, it's challenging sometimes. You got kids home from school, you got guests and family visiting, and I understand that, but this last couple of weeks have been a little busy. So In that vein too, I'd like to really kind of bring kudos to Bruce Fensky, as I've had to wear a couple hats here for the last several months. Obviously, so has he. So and the rest of the public works staff have really stepped up to make things happen. So,
Well, Bruce has a dream job. He gets to run a big snow blower, right?
well, he handed that off, so that's good. He was ready to hand it off.
He always smiles.
So, and then of course, we mentioned just briefly earlier, but we will have some significant utility repairs taking place along Highway 15 South, starting at the credit union and going to the north there on the west side of Highway 15. Should take a good chunk of tomorrow to get that taken care of. So just keep that in mind and ask that folks out and about pay attention.
One and done?
It's already past the one and done, but I'm hoping it's one more and done. How's that? Yeah, so, thank you.
All right. Oh, John, I gotta say that every place I go, everybody is just impressed what you guys do for snow removal. So, hey, I'm sure everybody else hears it too. I mean, they're very pleased with the job you guys do, so.
That was good.
Thank you. I'll pass that on to the staff.
All right, thanks, John. Oh. Mr. Sabor?
You're making her out. But I just wanted to say thank you to Mary for all of her years of leadership here on the city council. I have to say you're definitely one of Hutchinson's biggest cheerleaders, supporting all the activities in town, all the various groups. Commend all of your activity with Historic Hutch. But I really want to thank you for always being involved, always asking questions, always trying to do what's best for the residents of the city, and I miss working with you.
Thank you.
Dave, let's start with you tonight.
I'm not gonna steal your thunder, I'm gonna keep it long.
Okay.
So.
Thanks, Dave.
But again, even though it's clean as the streets are, still watch your stopping distance and that type of thing, because underneath it's still a little bit on the slick side, so, especially when it starts to warm up. But other than that, why, I haven't seen anything that's been drastic. Chief Gibson, I'll just say this, over on the right-hand turnoff of Highway 15 and going on 2nd Avenue, that's been plugged up right to the south curb a couple, 3 times here in the last couple of weeks too. People picking up somebody from somewhere, but they're all lined up in the right-hand turn lane. So I know it's short-lived, but they shouldn't do that typically. So, and that's a safety factor, I think, from that aspect of it. Other than that, why? Hope everyone had a great.
It's cold and windy.
Hope everyone had a great Christmas, and this old saying goes, we'll see you next year.
All right. Thanks, Dave. Pat?
We already said, John, I think you just did a great job with that snow. That was snow and the wind came hard and fast. So thank you, and the whole department.
Thanks, Matt. Chad?
Well, Mary, you and I have been on this board together for a very long time.
Yes, we have.
I bet we have been on 500 meetings together between council and EDA, and I've enjoyed you as a council person, and I appreciate all your hard work. I don't want to throw shade toward the other guys on this board, but you're maybe my favorite co-councilman, so, over the years. So, but thank you for your service. You've been great to serve with. I really appreciate you, and I wish you luck in your more retired than you are now status. So,
Okay,
yeah.
thank you.
Thanks, Mary.
Matt?
Just a couple of reminders. City offices are closed Monday, January 2nd, in observance of the New Year's holiday. And then our organizational meeting is Tuesday, January 3rd at 9 in the morning. So, and then I'll just echo Mary, thanks for, I had to obviously thank her. She was one of the council members that hired me.
Yeah.
I'm forever grateful for that, and I'll echo a lot of what Mark said. And now the interesting thing is that now Chad is the senior council member, correct?
I have been, I was here 2 years
Oh,
ago.
man.
Yeah.
Maybe more senior.
I've got both Pete and Mary and 12.
Yeah. So that's
Just
still,
thanks.
still the senior.
Still senior, though. We just have to recognize that, I think, more often now.
Senior, but the youngest.
But no, Mary, just thank you for everything you've done. So,
You're welcome.
Well, Mary, you know, yeah.
What can you say here?
What can I say, Mary? But I hope you enjoy your retirement, go and travel. I know that's kind of your plans, and it's been a pleasure. You know, miss you, so we'll just say thanks for all your service. All the committees and everything else you have been in Hutchinson. And like Mark said, you are one of the biggest cheerleaders of Hutchinson. So, but besides that, you know, it's this time of year, me being an old fireman, please adopt a fire hydrant. I mean, they are buried now, aren't they? So if you can adopt a fire hydrant on your neighborhood, I'd really appreciate it, and I know the firemen really appreciate that too.
Classic Gary thing to do this time.
I know, but you know.
It's like Bill Armour's trees in the fall.
Yeah. So, and, oh, Pat, you know, I should have known that I shouldn't have teased you about Joy yelling at you for something. So Angie said that I'm supposed to remind everybody that rides snowmobile to be cautious of people walking on the trail. So share the trail and just be cautious out there. Yeah, it's slippery underneath, so take care. So with that, Mary, yes.
So I can talk now.
I was waiting for you for that.
I'm waiting for all of these accolades to come this way first. And then I thought, then I'll speak. No, really, it's been an honor, a privilege to serve on the council. You know, when you start out, you're down here, and through the years, you realize really how wonderful this city is, how great the staff is. Every person does their job and does it well. The one thing I learned, stop and listen and look at people and realize what they really want for your community. You know, you get to talk to people, you get to know people, you get to work with a group. This council is amazing. When I know other council members in other towns, and I'm amazed. This is a great council. The staff, the council, we can agree to disagree on things and then come to a good decision. And that's what makes the city work. I'm so proud to be part of this council. But you know what, 12 years it's time for me to step down. I'm not getting any younger. A lot of changes in my life. I'm going to do some traveling. I'm going to start to think about me. Just a little bit more.
But Mary, you always told me you were like wine, you get better with age.
Yeah, but you know what? You don't know how long that bottle's going to have. So I'm just going to go out and do things. I'm not going to be absent from the city or from other things. I already have my eye on a couple of things I would really like to work on. And Pat has promised me that he will carry the beautification of our lighting in the parks and keep that on. So you're not going to all get away with not putting anything new in that park. No.
Well, Mary, I don't know if we completely told you, but we've got some annual dedicated funding that we're going for Christmas lighting, so.
Oh, good. Keep it up.
It's not a significant amount, but it should be enough to keep the up and running on each other. Yeah. So.
I mean, it does look beautiful. I hear a lot of compliments on it. The snowflakes look awesome this year. I see people in the park taking pictures in front of the snowflakes and everywhere else, so keep it up. It's all about our downtown and the vibrancy that we have. So, again, I thank each and every one of you And I'm not gonna be gone forever, I'll be hanging out. If I'm not, yeah, I might show up in the chamber once in a while if I don't like something. No. But I'll watch you on TV.
Just light us up. Just light us up.
Yeah, I'll just light you up. Okay. So now I'll get off my soapbox and stop talking.
Mary, would you do the honors?
Oh, you mean I get to adjourn?
Yes, please.
Oh. Is there a motion to adjourn the meeting?
So move.
I need a second. All in favor?
Aye.